Greetings to everyone joining us today. In just a few minutes, we will get started, but first I want to cover some housekeeping items for today's webinar. Everyone has been muted. If you have a question, please ask it in the question window of GoToWebinar. We will try to get to every question either individually or aloud during the Q&A session at the end. Once the presentation begins, sometimes people have issues seeing the slides advance. If that does happen to you, just close the webinar and then rejoin. That usually fixes things. We are recording today's session and we'll share the link with you after the webinar. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to today's webinar on Community Cloud, What's New in Summer 18. Thanks for joining. We're very excited to share information with you today. I'm Nisha Bakshi, and I'm on the developer marketing team here at Salesforce. Today, we're joined by Gayatri Geetha, Director of Product Management, Sudhir Bakru, Director of Product Management, and Jagdish Madhya, Senior Engineer at Salesforce. And they'll all be speaking about the benefits of bringing Community Cloud into your organization and what's new with this release. Advance to the next slide. Before I begin, just a quick note that when considering future developments, whether by us or with any solution provider, you should always base your purchasing decisions on products and features that are currently available. Next slide. Please keep the conversation going on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And please make sure to use the hashtag SalesforceDevs in all of your posts. Next slide. Feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation using GoToWebinar's question window. We will be answering as many questions as we can during the live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And with that, we're ready to get started with today's session. Gayatri?
All right. Hey, everyone. So great to be here. All right, so in today's webinar, we have a lot to cover. We're going to start off with a quick introduction to Community Cloud. I'll tell you what are the key use cases for which our customers deploy Community Cloud for. We will then kick off with the key themes and features for Summer 18 that's been released on Community Cloud, and then deep dive into the features for the digital experience platform. So today you will see some great features coming out for the builder with out-of-the-box themes and progressive rendering. Jagdish is going to be demoing CMS Connect for authenticated content. And then Sudhir is going to be demoing personalization and also give you a sneak peek of what's coming up for Winter 19 as well. And as Nisha mentioned, we will have room for Q&A at the end. All right, let's get started. So when our customers come to us and say, hey, we want to deploy Community Cloud, they usually have one of three key personas in mind. They're developing something for their customers or their partners or their employees. So let's talk about a few use cases with each of these personas. So for the customer persona, our customers usually want a customer portal or service community. So what is a customer portal? A customer portal is a great fit for industries like financial services or insurance, and they want a really great experience where their customers can come in, they can access their account information, they can update their account information, and then do complex business flows. Like, for example, if you want to apply a credit card, you can do that in a customer portal. And then you have community. The service community really is a great fit for industries like manufacturing or high tech. So this is a first line of defense for their customers, right? So their customers come in and they can ask questions, they can get their questions answered, they can interact with other members in the community, and if needed, they can also escalate cases with a live agent. Then you have the partner persona. And in the partner persona, we are heavily focused on the partner relationship management use case. So with the PRM use case, your customers will be able to interact with their partners in a whole new way, right? Because your partners will have access to the same information that their internal sales team has. So they'll have access to the same leads, the opportunities, access to certified content. And all this is going to make your partners sell smarter and sell faster, which is great. And then you have the employee community. And with the employee use case, our customers come to us and say, hey, we want to actually refresh our intranet strategy, or we want to have a very easy to use help desk. And that's what an employee community is a great fit for. So now that you know what are some of the use cases that we have in Community Cloud, let's talk about the 4 key themes we have coming out as part of the Summer 18 release. And we'll kick it off with the digital experience platform. So this is a platform that we've invested very heavily in. You probably are all familiar with it. And this is really the core platform that powers all of the 3 communities, or service community, customer community, and partner community. And as part of the digital experience platform, one of the features we're very excited about for Summer 18 is themes. We have a lot of out-of-the-box themes that I'll be demoing shortly with you. And with this, any Salesforce customer, big or small, can create a visually stunning UI in the Lightning Experience Builder with clicks, not code. And you're going to see how it is in a few minutes. And then we have the service community. So the service community, our key focus for Summer 18 is how can we increase the engagement of our customers? We've done that with Marketing Cloud integration. And with features like pin posts, we're making sure that the features or the information that should be top of mind for your customers is front and center in the community. Then we have a customer portal. And with customer portal, our key focus for Summer 18 is how can we help your service agent close all their cases even faster. We've done that with some enhancements we've done for Community 360. Community 360 gives a very holistic view of your customer to your service agent, and we've updated it with new custom objects and records and filtering. Then we've also made sure that your customers can pause the complex business processes by introducing pause flows. Then you have the PRM theme. With the PRM theme, the key focus has been how do we supercharge the sales productivity of your partners with all of the integrations we've done with Sales and Marketing Cloud. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be focusing heavily on digital experience platform today, but I do encourage you all to take a look at our release notes to see all of the other great features we have releasing for Community Cloud across the board. With that, let us just take a quick peek at what are the key digital experience platform features for Summer 18. So I've already spoken to you a little bit about pre-built themes, but in addition to that, we also have CMS Connect for authenticated content. So prior to this, you were able to integrate content from an external CMS system into your community using CMS Connect. This used to exist only for unauthenticated content. With Summer 18, we've expanded that to authenticated content as well. We also have progressive rendering for faster page load times. As you know, performance is a key focus for us here at Community Cloud, and progressive rendering is going to give a very fast page load time, and you can control that. Next piece is around Lightning Bolt for Salesforce. Think of this as a one-stop shop for you to see all of the installed applications that you have for your customer. And in addition to that, if you have new use cases, you can also search for those solutions on App Exchange. And lastly, we have native CMS. This is a pilot for the Summer 18 release, and Sudhir is going to be walking over that in more detail. But this is a way for you to host content on your Salesforce platform and use it in your community. You can create and host content, use it with a variety of themes and layouts. All right, so now let's get to the exciting part. Let's go to demos. I'm going to kick it off with out-of-the-box themes and progressive rendering for you. So for the demo, we've created a community called Rad Sports. Rad Sports is a fictional company, of course, but it's a company that's based out of San Francisco, and it's a maker of athletic shoes and athletic sportswear. So what Rad Sports is doing this June is they are organizing the San Francisco Marathon. And so they have a lot of content in their community, as you can see, geared towards marathon, right? So they have a banner, they have a few pieces of rich content, they have CRM data coming through, which shows you all your race history. And then they also are merging different products that they think will be suitable to the customers who come to this, who visit this page. So let me show you under the hood and see what it's going to take to update the look and feel of this community. So we have Eric Ware here, he's our admin, and he's been tasked with updating this and giving a bold, fresh look to this particular experience. So let's see how he does that. So Eric now is at the Builder. The Builder, as you know, is it's a WYSIWYG editor, I would say, where you can drag and drop different Salesforce components of the page and create a community experience really quickly within a matter of days. So a quick Arbor 2 here, you have all of the components that you can drag and drop. You have ways to control your page structure, whether it's your header or your footer or sidebar. And then you also have the settings page where you can actually do a lot of configurations around SEO, themes, and things like that. So new for summer 18, we have this theme panel. And as you can see today, we're using this particular theme called customer service. So this is a customer service template that Rad Sports is based out of. And by default, it's using the customer service theme. But you also see all these different themes, new themes that have gotten added as part of Summer 18. There's one with a minified header. There's one with a prominent search box. And then this one Eric really likes because it has a very bold call to action, something that he wants for the community. So this is the one that he's going to try and activate. And when you click on it right off the bat, you see how that community is mobile view, and also some of the key features that this particular theme supports. So as you know, every experience we built on Community Cloud is mobile responsive, so your customers can access it both mobile as well as the desktop. And now he's going to click on Activate Theme. I want to keep all my current content, so he goes ahead and does that. And this, I think, is a great fit. Like if you have a company that's using one of the out-of-the-box templates, this is really a very quick way for you to update the look and feel. All right, so here's the new theme that's been applied to it. As you can see, there's a very bold header. And it looks like the rest of the content has made it through okay. So what Eric wants to do right now is just fix the header a little more. So he can just click on it, click on the hero image. And maybe he's going to try and select a different image. The San Francisco Bridge by itself looks a little lonely. So let's see what he does, what image options we do have here. So for this, let's go with the San Francisco Marathon Bridge. But then it has a lot more content. I mean, it has a lot more going on. That looks really nice. He can also go ahead and change very easily where the content sits. So if he wanted central alignment with the content, he can go ahead and do that. And he can also style it a little bit as well. And he's going to go ahead and publish it to the community. And just like that, with a few clicks, not code, he's able to visually update the look and feel of this community. And let's just see how that looks for him now. And this way, he's done. So that was fairly easy, right? All right. So now let's talk about progressive rendering. As I mentioned, Eric feels like, hey, all of the top of the page components that I have, I want to make sure that they are loading faster. And then maybe the content that I have in the bottom, I can make it load a little slower. So if you go into settings, I can show you where you can control progressive rendering. Here, there's a performance section, and you can just flip that to on. And once you've done that, any component that you actually click on, you click into this little arrow here, and you will see you're able to assign display priority. So you get to control what the priority needs to be. Should it be a neutral priority? Do you want it to be the highest priority item that displays first, or a high priority? So you can go ahead and assign that and change the community. And you can also take the page optimizer. We always advise that you download the page optimizer tool. You see how your community is currently performing, and then you can go ahead and tweak how this actually looks. All right, so that was about out-of-the-box themes. CMS Connect for authenticated content. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with CMS Connect, but CMS Connect is a really great way for you to integrate content in a very seamless fashion from an external CMS, any CMS really. So whether you have a major CMS like WordPress or AEM or Drupal, and you have content there and you just want to pull it into the community, you can do that. And we have two connectors within CMS Connect. We have a HTML connector and we have a JSON connector. So with the HTML connector, you're able to pull in a lot of the banners, headers, footers, HTML fragments from your external CMS. And with CMS Connect JSON, you can actually pull in lists of content as well. So now I'll hand it off to Jagdish, who can talk you through more on CMS Connect JSON and what we've done in that space.
Thanks, Gayatri. CMS Connect in summary is so especially in JSON, we added two features to it. One is like to pull items or to pull the content which is there in external CMS system behind authentication parameter. That authentication could be basic auth, or it could be OAuth 2.0, or like it may not be behind a basic auth as well. And SEO capability for detail page. This works by default. User don't have to do anything. But user has to drop CMS Connect component and detail page configured accordingly. That's what been added. Let's switch to demo. Okay. This is a page, community page, which is being published, and you see these men shoes and women shoes. These are actually pulled in from external CMS system, which are behind, which are from WordPress. So I go to the WordPress blog, and then see these are the content which is being created at WordPress. So you see different shoes being created, and now before configuring CMS Connect JSON, you should be having endpoints ready before actually creating CMS connection itself. So one endpoint is to show list of the content like men's shoe, and another endpoint to get the details of each one. Let's say I'm clicking on shop here to get the detail of that particular item. So you need two endpoints for that. So for WordPress, if you see these are the two endpoints. So this one is for list and this one for detail. So if you see 111 is like unique identifier of that item. So now I have these endpoints. If at all your content is behind an authentication, you should be having these parameters, authenticated parameter handy before configuring it. And with that, now I go to Salesforce setup page where CMS Connect JSON use name credential to make external call out to these list and detail pages. So you come back to the name credential. You can go to setup page and search with name credential, and then you can come and create new name credential here. I'm going to open existing name credential. Let's say WordPress Authenticated. Let me go to edit mode. So you see that this is like beyond CMS designs. This endpoint is behind OAuth 2.0. So you can come and set up OAuth 2.0 here, and then that's it. And you give a proper name and label for that. And similarly, not only that, you can use this one for non-authenticated content as well. You come here and then set up a name credential. This is the URL. And then you can say identify type, and then authentication protocol is no authentication. So you can do it for basic auth, OAuth 2.0, and anonymous identified type as well. I mean to say no authentication as well. So now I configure this. Now I define a name credential. Now I go back to CMC or community workspace, and then go back to CMS content, CMS connect tab, and then create a CMS connection. I'm using existing connection, so it is easy for us. So I come back here, I created a connection. See, connection type should be authenticated. Then it will show up list of name credentials just been created on the system. So you have to select which is relevant to you to configure the content from which you want to show. So now with that, now in the JSON section, you have to define two main key items. One is content item and content list. Content list is nothing but a for collection. So we know the endpoint is like, as I said, like endpoint is this one. So I come back here and then I give a relative path because actually URL been given a name credential. So I give it as a post, and then category men is to filter out the post by men. That is WordPress give us the way to filter. And now coming back to node path is nothing but, let us say this is a JSON payload written by this service. Now I go to pretty formatter, so easy to understand. This is how it look like. See, if you see that system has to reach this endpoint post, not endpoint, sorry, to this node to get the list of the content. So for that, you have to specify what is the node JSON expression, we call it. So where we have to look for a list of, where the system has to look for list of items. So let us say if your system returns you, instead of an object, it returns you an array. In that case, you don't have to give any node path. If at all it is at expression level, then you have to give a post. If at all it is like a inner path like post slash items or so, you can give that path as well. And then I define for men and women. That's it. Now I coming back to the detail. So from list, I have to navigate to the detail. So I have to specify what is an endpoint. If you see here, at the end, I'm giving a component because component is the one which is a replaced by the system with the unique identifier. If you come back to the this URL, so here it is nothing but component. This could be like in any system, it could be like query parameter. So, but only thing you have to make sure is wherever that unique identifier has to be passed, you have to give the component placeholder over there. And with that, if I come back to the list, you see like each item is identified by with unique identifier. So every system would give that one because we have to identify that item. So you have to note down that path, and you have to give that exactly over here, and then similarly for the title path. That's it. We define a connection now. Now I go back to the builder and use this connection. So this has been dropped already. This is a mention section. Now you can go to components and then search for CMS connect JSON, and then you can drop this component. Once you drop this component, you will see this. This component will be, property panel will be opened, and then you see like this is an existing connection. That's why you see all these parameters. You see like we are selecting currently newly, the connection, CMS connection, which has been created, and the content is, it will show details as well as men and women. That means list. So we have to select one of the we have to select only a list item here, and then when you select it, it will open up layout for that. Currently we support only grade, and then you can say like what is the number of items per page to return. So that let us say you have 100 items on the system, so it will pull 6 items at a time, so that you can navigate to the system by simple clicks like previous and next to the entire list. And then number of columns, like if it is a grid, let's say you have 12 items, so it will show 4 in each 4 rows and then 3 columns. It's like simple math column calculation. And then currently we support only one card layout, that is a layout which is shown within the list, and then that layout supports these fields: title, author, published on, body, and image source. So you can give any mapping, no issues. Published on is a date format, you have to give it in ISO date format, and then all other are like you can give any mapping. Here we use title, except, and then future image. I go back to this mapping, just JSON, and you see these are the mappings I'm trying to give. So within each item, what is the actual title I have to look for? Let us say title, except, and then similarly I'm using future image for this demo. And then let's say you have a nested element like author/name. You can use author/name straight away. Let's say you have a like full name you want to say using first name and last name. We support some out of the box functions like concat, where you can concat 2 elements like author/first name, comma author/last name to see the full name on the card. You can do that, and then that's it. Once you do that, and then go back to link text, you can provide anything. It's any meaningful text, and then save it. And then once you save it, if type is a community page you selected, then what happens is community one page being created by the system for you, and then with the mapping JSON expressions being same as what is been defined for the card level. If at all you have a different mapping defined by detail page, I mean to say system will look for will try to hit this URL for the detail page. If at all mapping suits, mapping is same mapping the way it is coming, then you don't have to change. Unless if at all it has any changes, you user has to make a changes and go to detail page and make a changes accordingly. So in this case it is same. Why I'm saying is this is what my detail page is. You see it is mapping is more or less same. If at all you have a title inside like title/value, you have an actual title in there written by title detail page. You have to go back to you have to go back to this page and then CMS connect JSON, and then you have to select that. You have to change the mapping to that, and then you publish. That's it. You're good there, and then come back to published page, and then use the connection. You will see the shoes here, and then you can navigate through. Currently, there is no navigation because there are only 4 elements on the CMS system. And thank you. With that, I am giving it to Sudhir.
Thanks so much, Jagdish. Thanks, Gayatri. Thanks, Jagdish. It's really great to see all these demo come to life. We've been thinking about them, but to actually see these features come to life, it's really exciting. Hi, everybody. My name's Sudhir Bakru. I'm a product manager on the Community Cloud team, just like Gayatri. What I'd like to focus today on is personalization in Community Cloud. And I'd love to show you a sneak peek into the roadmap of communities and where some of our focus is lying for upcoming features. And I'll focus on two areas over there, one being native content and the other being the hybrid mobile app work that we're doing there. Now let's start with personalization. When I think of myself as a user and use different products, web-based products, mobile-based products, an expectation I have is that the content on these products that's shown to me is relevant to me. It's contextual, and it's really catered towards my likes and dislikes. An example of this is, if I go to YouTube, the recommended videos for me are based on, hey, the videos I've liked, or the kind of videos I've seen in the past, an experience that's more catered towards me. Even on Facebook, right? When I go to Facebook, the content that I see is based on the likes that I have made on Facebook, or even some of the interactions I have with my friends. So if I'm having interaction with a few friends a lot more, I'll see content from them. Now we understand that there's a similar expectation from our customers and partners to enable personalization of the community. So they want to show targeted and personalized experiences to their own customers. This is where audience targeting comes in. Now, if you've been with us for a while, I think this matrix will probably make sense. But let me just, for folks who've not been with us, just a quick overview. Audience targeting gives you the ability to create different user segments, and these user segments are created using different criteria. You could use a criteria like user profile or location, referring domain, or even the record type, or even your CRM data. So if you want to create experiences like, hey, I would like to show experience A to my users in San Francisco, and experience B to my users in New York, this platform enables you to do that. Today, you can, of course, create all these criteria types that I called out, but you can also target different entities on the community, right? So your pages, you could take a page and target it. You could target a component. You could also target branding sets and help enable that use case that I'm talking about and provide a personalized experience. If some of this sounds fuzzy, is not clear, don't fret. I have a demo for you to walk you through how all of this works. But just before I do that, in this journey that we've been on, everything I spoke about today is available in production. And as a next step, we're working on personalizing content. So if you want to show a feature topic component let's say you have 10 feature topics and you want to show 3 feature topics to user segment A and feature topic 4, 5, 6 to user segment B, how do we enable you to do that? So that's going to be our next focus point, and that's where some of our focus is going to lie. We're also enabling criteria operators. So if you've used audience targeting, you know that you can't do criteria like, hey, I want to define an audience so I want like a component to show for all users except users in Germany, right? So you can't do all of that. We'll be introducing new operators that will help enable that. Now, to understand all of this, let's look at a demo. I'm going to use the same community that Gayatri and Jagdish just showed, so that we have the same context. This is RAD, right? RAD is organizing this marathon in San Francisco, and they're not doing this for the first time. They've done this in the past. They've done it in multiple cities. And one thing they've learned is that when you provide trainings particular to a user segment, trainings in terms of running trainings for marathons, then those runners perform better. They're more engaged into the marathon. They register a lot more to the marathon. So what they want to do is they want to define an experience for female runners. They define 2 segments, male runners and female runners, and now they want to define an experience for female runners and provide training that is catered particularly to female runners. For a demo purpose, I'm going to keep this simple, and of course, we can expand this as much as we want. In this example, we see the one component, the new native content component. I will walk you through this new component as well. But what we've done over here, what RAD has done, they've created a native content component that highlights the training for female runners. They've targeted it to only female runners. So if you come to RAD, register as a female runner, you see this component. And if you're not in that list, you don't. So let's see how they've done it, right? So here's the component. If you see over here, it's already targeted to a particular audience. Let's see how they've done that. I tap on that. I'm just going to click, because we already created this audience, I'm just going to click on edit audience. So if you've never seen this in the past, this is your audience editor. We've already created this audience. If you've not created, of course, you're going to start afresh. But yeah, you give the audience a name. There are, like I said, there are multiple criteria types that you could use. You could use profile, you could use location. So, talking about that use case about showing something to users in San Francisco versus New York. To domain, right? So let's say you want to show a different experience to users coming to www.radcommunity.com/female runners versus www.radcommunity.com/male runners. You can do that as well. But here's what we've used for this particular demo. We've used one of our most powerful features, CRM-based targeting. So you can actually target, excuse me, you can actually target use audience to define criteria based on CRM data. In this case, we used a field on the user object, and we've used the female value in it, and we've targeted that component. You could go further beyond. It does not have to be a field only on user object. You could traverse from user to contact to account, right, to these levels and target a value. As long as you start from user, you could go up to 4 levels of traversals. So in this case, let's get back to this demo, this particular use case. In this use case, we've targeted the female runner, and this component is shown to them. Again, I'm keeping it simple. You could use any component on this page to do the same form of targeting. You completely change the look and feel of this page if you like. Now, if I go to the community on runtime, and I see that I'm a female runner, if you see on the right top, logged in, and I scroll down, I see this component that I just targeted. I see it, it's catered to me, I just registered, and now I can learn about like trainings that are catered to female runners. However, if I'm a male user and I scroll into this community and I scroll down, I don't see that component, right? So more contextual, more relevant experiences. Like I said, you could take any component. It could be an out-of-the-box component, a custom component that you built, and you could target those. Not just that, you can take this a level further. So I'm going to go a level higher, right? So I just spoke about component targeting. You can also do page level targeting. So if you are familiar with something called page variations, then you can create page variations for each of your pages. So in this example, let's say you want to define 2 different experiences for your users in New York versus San Francisco. You create 2 different page variations. And for New York users, you want to show flight. You want to explain to them how do they get to the marathon, be it flight deals, be it you want to show them, hey, here's some tourist locations while you're running the marathon. Provide them that kind of an experience. Versus for users in San Francisco, just show them, hey, driving directions, right? Here's how you drive to the marathon event. So you can do that. You can create 2 different page variations, assign them to an audience, and voila, you have 2 different experiences for 2 different users. There's a third place where you can continue to target your target audience and personalize this experience, and that's theming. That's your that's your branding set. So you could create different branding sets and assign them to an audience too. What that does is it gives you a different look and feel for different user segments. For example, if you want to show a different look and feel for your male runners versus a different look and feel for your female runners, you could do that, right? You could show that kind of experience as well. Like over here, like you see in my branding set, I could create different variations. Here too, just like pages, I can create different branding set variations and assign them to an audience. Here in this case, assign them into an audience, just like I did for component, right? So just to quickly summarize, because I'm covering a lot of ground here, one, of course, you go create the user segments, different user segments, but you assign them to pages, components, and branding sets, and that brings together this personalized experience, allowing you to build this personalized experience for your customers. Additionally, our next area of focus is now going to be, like I said, content level targeting. So we're going to safe harbor. We're going to start focusing on component variations. So today you can target a component and show and hide it, but we'll allow you to even create variations of a component, and that'll allow you to even further target particular content that you have. So that's on the personalization piece. Of course, we have some question time at the end of the session, so love to take any questions that come up at that time. For my next part of the session, I'd love to focus a little bit on the roadmap for Community Cloud, and 2 main areas here. I want to talk about native content, and I want to talk about the hybrid mobile app. Now, from a native content piece, so I'm just going to open this tab. Yeah, from native content perspective, we understand as content writers, be it you being a content writer as a content writer in a company or a marketing manager, you don't live in Builder. you are not designing a website. You probably live in Google Docs. You probably live in Word documents, right? That's where you write your content. So we've provided this one place for you, one tile in Workspaces, right? Where you can click on content management and you get a consolidated view of everything related to content within community. So we have this community, this native content experience, which I'll talk about. You can of course go to topics, right? This is where you go to define your feature topics, your navigational topics, assigning them to your knowledge articles. So you can do that all under this tab. You of course have CMS Connect. This is what Jagdish walked you through, so I won't go into too much details. And then you have recommendations. But for this conversation, I want to talk about native content. So we've provided this new ability for you to write content from scratch within Community Cloud, an absolute first for us. So we created a bunch of content over here, native content here. So I'm just going to click on one and see an example of what that looks like. So here's a native content. You see an example of this native content, right? Where so the content creator has gone in to find a title, provided a body. The body creates is text and pictures and images. And again, right, this is the content manager, like I said, lives in Google Docs, so they can take that content and just copy paste it here. As simple as that, right? They provide a feature image and they provide an excerpt. And we'll see how this comes together, on the builder side of things. Now, as a content manager, I create this content here. Of course, I'm not the only version of content I live and breathe. There is multiple versions of content that I work with within the same native content that I'm defining. So in this case, I have the third version. That's the latest version of my content type. So I'm working along those. I can of course go back to previous versions of content that I've also created and play around and see what make any changes over there if you like. Now, when I once define all of this content, I can go back to Builder. That's right here. Yeah, I can go back to Builder and I can choose the native content component and simply drag and drop it here. So let's quickly scroll down here. Yeah, so this is your native content component. Now, remember these components that I showed you, even the one that I targeted, these are all native content components. So what you do is basically you tap here, you have a component property editor where you can add content, and I'm just going to add the same content that I just showed you in Workspaces. Click Save, and you see this component show up here, right? This is the excerpt that you see. This is the featured image that we added. If you on runtime and you click on this, you'll see the detailed content. But there are other things that you can do also over here. There are layouts, right? You see a banner layout right now. You could change the layout to show tile, show card. We have full inline as well. Today we have these 4 out-of-the-box layout types. We are focusing and working on building, even allowing you to build custom layouts in future community releases. You can do other things as well, right? You can play around and customize this even further. You could choose not to have an image. You could choose not to have the excerpt you defined. You can change a lot within this component to customize this particular experience. Now, once I have this, you can of course publish this community, and you'll have the native content show up, the component show up, just like all of these components are showing up on the community as well. So that covers the native content piece. Again, happy to answer questions in the question and Q&A session. I'm going to quickly jump into the third area. I'm going to jump into the mobile app. So what a lot of feedback that we get from our customers is, hey, I have put in so much effort to build this really cool, good-looking Lightning community, but there's no easy way for me to build a native mobile app using clicks, not code. The only way to do is use mobile SDK, start writing a lot of code afresh. But I want to leverage my Lightning community that I have already. So what we're doing as a part of Winter 19 and a pilot release is that we're going to launch the hybrid mobile app that will allow customers to first brand the mobile app, so provide custom app icons, custom app names, even splash screens for their app. And when they launch the app, they will see the mobile web version of the community in the app. So what you see in front of you is the same community that I showed you. This one's catered and targeted to Chicago, but remember, this is the same native content that I was showing you, right? So it's the mobile web version of the community that shows up. Now we understand that it's not just the mobile web version of the community that you want to see. You want to take it further. You want those native app features to come in as well. So things like persistent authentication, things like file access. So you can do that. We've integrated that into the product itself. So I'm going to go to my profile. Let's say I want to change the image of the runner. right, of my user profile. So I tap here, click on upload image, and it gives me access to my photo, to my camera. If I want to take a photo of myself, I could use the photo library that I have on the camera on the phone, or I could even browse the native file system of iOS. We're focusing both on iOS and Android for this product. So that's one of the things. You can, of course, also go and log in again. So one of the features that we support is persistent authentication. So let's say I kill this app and I relaunch it again. This is the splash screen that I was talking about. So once this loads, you will see that I'm still logged in as the user. I'm still logged in. If you see on the right top, I'm still logged in. Hence, basically, you're not having to log in over and over again, and the login persists, which is a common expectation from native apps. Additionally, we've built in-app browsers. So if there's an external link being targeted that you have in the mobile app, it'll open in-app in the browser. It won't take you to a mobile a mobile browser. It'll open in-app so that your user stays engaged with the community app. For future releases, we're also looking at a very top ask from our customers. And again, safe harbor, we're looking at doing push notifications. So if someone mentions you on Chatter, you get a push notification for that. That's going to be some of our area of focus. And from a timeline perspective, we're doing mobile pilot for a few select customers in winter 19, and then after that, we're looking at GAing the product once we get really awesome feedback from our customers. All right, I think I covered a lot of ground. I'm going to quickly pause here, go back to my deck, and actually hand it over to our host. But before I do that, I'd welcome all of you to actually look at a few trailheads to learn about Community Cloud if you're not familiar with it. Of course, you have basics of Community Cloud. You have the trailhead for that. But look at a lot of Community Cloud details. We have a lot of new blogs that have come up that our developers and our content writers are writing to familiarize you with new features. So I'd welcome you to look at that as well. And with that, let me hand this over back to Nisha. So.
Okay, now as promised, we have a chance to cover questions asked during today's session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to input them in the window and I will ask them. Okay, first question. We are using CMS Connect. Can you share an example of authentication?
Yeah, I'm taking this question. So there were help docs created like how to connect to the external CMS system behind an authentication. So those are openly available. You can search it and then get a CMS Connect JSON. You will get it and then can go through.
Great. Has CMS Connect been tested with SharePoint and SharePoint 2013?
Yeah, CMS Connect, we use name credential to connect external CMS content. For that, we tested for a couple of CMS systems, but it works for any system which is behind an authentication of basic either OAuth 2.0 or public connection, and it returns a JSON, and you can configure that in CMS Connect JSON. You need to be a CMS system defined there. You can use any system which follows these. That applies to the other three. There is a question like what about Shopify? That applies to any system. Like you can connect it and pull the content from anywhere as long as it falls under these criteria.
Are you able to select content list item layouts to be a custom Lightning component, or are there any plans for this functionality?
So far, only out of the box, we are giving two layouts. One is for grid, that is list, and another for detail, that's card. But it's like custom components are not supported now. But yeah, we do have a plan to do that. Probably, yes, we have a plan.
Can we get access to any CMS authentication related trailhead modules? It was a bit complicated to understand it completely.
As I said, like we didn't have a trailhead, but we have an help docs, which are very useful. So you can go through that.
Okay, great. This question is for Gayatri. What about customized themes to fit current site branding? What is the level of effort, or do you recommend CMS Connect?
Yeah, so I think you can, if you wanted to just quickly pull in like a banner or a HTML fragment, then I think the CMS Connect is actually a great option to do that. So currently, right now, as far as custom themes are concerned, I showed you the out-of-the-box themes, but you don't have like a declarative styling for these out-of-the-box components supported yet. And something else to bear in mind is if you're a third-party developer, you can't really access the new design time property. So for example, you have color picker, you can't really access that for your own use, right? So some things to keep in mind while you're making the decision, but I'd say it'll be dependent on what you want to pull in.
Another question, is Authenticator content in the digital community, or will the customer community also have the CMS Connect feature?
So I can take that one as well. So authenticated content is not just for the digital community, irrespective of which community you have, whether it's a partner, an employee, or a customer community, you can use this.
Great. A couple more for you. The first is, when will native content be available in beta or GA?
Yep. So as I mentioned, it's pilot right now. We are targeting safe harbor, of course, open beta in winter 19, and the GA will follow maybe a couple of releases after that.
Great. And can you export and import native content for translations?
So currently, we don't have a way for you to get native content from an external CMS system and merge that content there. It's mainly for, you're just creating it on the Salesforce platform in your community. That's what we support. And translations is something we have in our roadmap as well, but not for winter 19.
Got it. And with features like target audiences, progressive rendering, are these all available for templates like Partner Central?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think anything we showed here today, you can use it for any template within Community Cloud.
Okay. What about creating your own customized themes? Would you recommend CMS Connect versus an entire theme rebuild?
So I think this is similar to the question we had earlier. I'd say it kind of depends on what you're trying to bring in, but both of them are good options. We don't have a lot of customization options with the out-of-the-box themes that we have today. So something to bear in mind.
Okay. Let's see. I've got some other questions here. One from Sudhir. Where can we find training and documentation on these features shared with us today?
So any of the features we talked about from a summer 18 perspective, there should be documentation that's out there already. It's our help documentation. It's our dev documentation. You should be able to find it. When it comes to the pilot features I spoke about, there's of course, these are still not out live, so there's no public documentation available for them. So yeah, so expect that documentation to come out in a release or so once we go pilot.
Okay, I have a question here about the hybrid mobile app. How is it being built? Is it on Swift, or is it just making an HTTP request to the website?
Yeah, so without going into too much detail of the technicality of it, remember it's one. There are two aspects to it, right? One is of course the mobile web community itself, right? And the other aspect of it is the container within which it's built. So yeah, the container, of course, it's going to be Swift, and then the mobile web community is your responsive version, which is a web view, which is basically a container backed into a web view for your mobile app. So yeah, that's how it's being built.
Got it.
Yep.
To get personalized content, do users need to be authenticated? How do you determine what content to display and to whom? Can it be based on IP addresses?
Yeah, so a couple of things here, right? So one is, do they need to be authenticated? Depends on the criteria type, but you can build guest user experiences as well. The user object, for example, has a field type called guest, a field type called type actually, and then you could choose guest and build a guest user experience for them. Nisha, what was the second part of the question? I forget. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can it be based on IP addresses?
Yes. So the location feature that I showed you is actually based on IP address. So if you choose San Francisco or New York, if the user is actually in that location, we reverse IP into it and we provide that experience. If you want to do it based off their actual location, you can again use the user object and go into the city field or the country field and target that. So yeah, both options available.
Got it. Here's another question. A lot of our clients are using Chatter. When we create employee communities, community has its own chatter. How can we expose chatter so that our clients use Salesforce in their employee community?
All right, so I can take that one. So Chatter, like you mentioned, is an amazing collaboration tool. We do have something called cross-community streams that has been released. So this is a very common scenario where you actually have an internal Salesforce chatter, and then you have a community, maybe it's a partner community or in a partner community where somebody wants to access some of the questions coming from both sources. So they can actually set up cross-community streams. And this way, you're able to get the chatter from your community as well as from your internal org as well, in your internal org.
Great. Jagdish, can you explain again what is authenticated content?
So authenticated content is like CMS Connect. Try to get the content. You can pull the content from the external CMS system. So which is through JSON payload. So now let us say your external system itself is behind an authentication. Usually nowadays we use OAuth2.o as a authentication behind an authentication. So you can, that's what an authenticated content, you mean like your content is behind an authentication. So you can pull that content into the CMS system or CMS Connect, I mean through to community. And there is one more question. Most of the questions are like, have we tested CMS to the all existing CMS systems? No, it is not tested to the all existing CMS system, but majority, like major CMS systems, been tested. And as I said before, you can connect this to any system, either it is authenticated, non-authenticated, and as long as it returns a JSON, you can configure that on through JCMS Connect JSON.
Can I use one community and segment based on user profile for service, partner, or customer?
So you can use one community and segment based on profile, yes. And that's the whole idea of doing the user profile targeting. So yeah, you can do it as long as you're living in the same community. Yes, you can.
Cool. And we have questions about different markets and if there are any restrictions for CMS. This one is specifically about the German market.
Right. So for CMS, you have CMS Connect and you have the native CMS. CMS Connect, you can, of course, use it in all markets and you can import whatever you want. Native CMS today is available for the English market only, but this is something that we are working on expanding for other markets as well.
Can I consume community features into my CMS via an API? For example, a service request?
So today we don't have any API support exposed for the native CMS. So this is something that we will be announcing in a bit, but nothing as of now.
What kind of features can we expect between Community Cloud and Chat Live?
Sorry, I didn't get the last question. What was that?
Between Community Cloud and live chat live?
Oh, are you talking about like the live agent? So I think this one, you can actually read up the summer release notes specifically targeted to the customer portal. But I think one of the things that we've introduced is around being able to pause flows, right? So for example, let's say your service agent and your customer are having a live chat and your service agent wants to take a look at the customer's record. They can do that with some of our Community 360 updates right now in the dashboard. And additionally, there's an ability now for both the agent and the customer to pause any flow. If they're talking about a certain business process that the customer is working on, they can actually do that. I'm not sure if that quite answered the question, but maybe.
So live chat is part of Community 360, yeah. So if you're talking about Community 360, of course, what Gayatri just mentioned, that's from a larger perspective, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time, so I'll ask one final question. And this is, I believe the IP-driven question was on actual IPs and not geo-IP. Can you please expand on this?
Yeah. Yeah, so what we support today is basically the geo IP. So if it depends, if it's your we reverse IP and see what IP we are receiving, right? From basically from Google API, and based on that we provide you the experience, and that's what we support today. So yeah, that's the kind of IP. It's the geo IP that we support from a location standpoint.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that concludes today's webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If we did not get to your specific question, please reach out to us in the forum. You can reach us at the forum at developer.salesforce.com/forum or click on the community tab and click forum. Enjoy your day.